Welcome to day one of the Build Your Audience Bootcamp. I'm super excited for you. We are going to do some cleaning up and setting up of your Instagram account so that you can really step into the energy of who you came here to be. Because you have to bring the energy of who you came here to be in order for people to want to follow you, in order to grow your audience. And remember that for me, it's never about 50,000, 100,000, a million followers. That's great if that's your jam and if that's how you're meant to show up in the world. However, you can monetize an audience that is a lot smaller than that. In fact, I've worked with a lot of people who have well over 10,000 followers and are not monetizing their audience at all. You know, you've heard me reference this before if you've been around Bodygraph Chart World at all. Kevin Kelly's book, 1,000 Raving Fans. Because that's all you really need. Yes, it can be great to have more, but think about it. Sometimes we're not energetically ready for more, right? Sometimes I have to sit with myself and say, okay, Vicky, if you had 20,000 followers, what would that mean for your everyday life? And I think sometimes we forget about that part. We have this goal of, more followers, more followers, more followers, but we're not even really serving or engaging with the followers that we do have. So thinking about having that many more would serve to just like break your life in some way, right? You would feel even more angst around showing up on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is for you. So today we're going to start with a clean slate, okay? You have your Instagram account. As we talked about in the kickoff call, you're going to want to have either a creator or a business account. A creator account, I have discovered, gives me way more music choices, and I love some music on my stories and my reels and things like that. So that's why I have chosen a creator account. For most of us, a creator account is going to be just perfect. It still lets you get your insights and all of those things. So when I say clean up your account, here's what I'm going to invite you to do first. Look at all the people that you're following on Instagram. Now, there's a rule of thumb that we should be following a lot less people than are following us. I can't remember why that is, but I know it's been said in a few Instagram courses that I've taken. So you don't want to be the person who has 300 people following you and you're following 4,000 people, okay? So chances are if you're following that many people, you are getting way lost in comparisonitis and imposter syndrome, and I don't want that for you. So what I'm going to invite you to do is to look at all of the people that you're following. If there is someone there, actually click on them and look at their feed. And if there is someone there that causes you to feel any kind of angst, if there's someone there who causes you to go into comparisonitis, if there's someone there who causes you to judge yourself harshly, if there's someone there who makes you feel like you're an imposter and like you can't show up, then I'm going to ask you to unfollow them. Your Instagram is your online space. It's as if people are in the living room with you. That's how I want it to feel. Would you be excited to invite people over who made you feel less than, who made you feel badly about yourself, who made you feel like you're never going to measure up? Of course not. And you're not going to be able to show up in an inspired fashion if you are always looking at Instagram and comparing yourself to someone else that you feel you can't measure up to, okay? So first thing I want you to do is unfollow those people. Unfollow them right away. The next thing that I want you to do is go to your followers. Who's following you? And if there's anyone there who you're not excited about them seeing your stuff, guess what? You can kick them out. They don't get to be in your world just because they decided to follow you. And speaking to the women in the group, there are a lot of creepy guys who just follow us for no reason. And you look at their account and they might have, they're following 2,000 people and they have 2 followers, or they just started their account, or it's really sketchy looking. Get them the hell out of there. You don't need that shit in your life. Pardon my language, but it's true. So remove any of those. You can remove fake followers as well. I will put a note for that in your workbook on how to remove fake followers. But you can often look through and see the sketchy accounts and just get rid of them. And then if there are people that you feel like you're holding yourself back from showing up as your full self, like your Aunt Marge who always has something to say about your hair, or, your mother who thinks that you're doing too many things at once, or your sister who thinks that you're lazy or that online income isn't real, or any of those things, even though they're your family, you can totally remove them from your business Instagram. You could have a private Instagram if you feel like you want people to be able to be there, and just explain to them that I'm going to add you to my private Instagram. This is where I share my own memories and my family stuff, my private stuff, and here's my business account. You don't even have to mention to them that you took them off, because chances are they're not going to realize it, okay? But the last thing that you want to do is to go to do a live on Instagram, go to do a story on Instagram, think, ooh, what if so-and-so sees it? What if so-and-so that I went to grade 8 and bullied me sees it? We can't have you in that energy, okay? You have to show up in your big deal energy. You are a big freaking deal. People are following you for a reason, and we are going to find that reason together. Okay, let me check my notes to make sure that I'm getting everything okay. Okay, then I'm going to give you a little bit of woo-woo, and you know that when I say prayer, I mean whatever prayer is to you, okay? You and your higher self, whatever that is for you. But I want to invite you, once you get your Instagram cleaned up, and this may take a little bit of time depending on how many people you're following, because Instagram is going to cut you off. When you've removed a certain amount of followers, they're going to cut you off because they don't want it to be like robotish. So I'm sure there's a better word for that, but so it may take you, even a few weeks to clean this up, and that's okay. As you're going through the process, I'm going to invite you to say a prayer over your Instagram account. I'm going to invite you to silently and energetically invite the people in who you're here to serve, and invite the others to fall away, because you can do that too. You can energetically invite people to fall away, and then treat your Instagram account like it's your sacred space. I did a lot of work around this with my coach over the past couple of years because I have some Facebook trauma, and we may or may not get into that this round of boot camp. But he used to say to me, Vicky, this is your house. You can totally ditch them. You can totally kick them to the curb. Give yourself full permission to do that. And then we're going to go into knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. Of course, we're going to look to your human design for this. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently for the purposes of this exercise today. We know that you know your type. We know that you know your strategy. We know that you know how many centers you have defined, how many motors you have defined, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes we can cling to that, and I'm going to call you on it if you're clinging to that. If you're clinging to the fact that you're a projector, so you have to do it this way, and you're a manifesting generator, so you have to do it this way. Yes, there are things that we do according to our design, and business is business. So I'm going to invite you to step into the big version of yourself, the big deal version of yourself, and we'll do this together. What I want to invite you to look at first is your channels. I always say if I were to teach human design course, I would start with the channels instead of leaving them till near the end, because it's like the electric panel that your whole design is laid upon. Your channels form your type and your strategy, and often your authority. Always your authority. So you want to look at your channels and see how you're meant to show up in the world. So your exercise today, you've got a lot of work to do today on day one, okay? This is boot camp. Remember I said I would kick your... So your exercise is to find out everything you can about those channels. If you're newer to human design, that's okay. Take some time, and Google is your friend. Go through all of your books. Richard Rudd's book on circuitry is, in my opinion, the very best book on circuitry that there is. But go through any resources that you can get your hands on to find out everything you can about the channels that you have. You may have one channel. In that case, that is everything for you. That's a really big piece of the puzzle, because how your channels operate are how you do everything in your business. Now, if you're a reflector and you're here, I understand that you don't have channels, and that's okay. It's going to be very helpful for you to follow the moon transit so that you know when channels are defined in your design, because that allows you to lean into different energies throughout the month, right? Over the course of 28 days, sometimes you're going to be emotionally defined. Some days you're going to be more splenically defined. Some days you're going to have a defined throat. So you want to know what those days are. It's a little more work for you, but that's okay. You've got this. And don't worry if you fall behind. There's no such thing as behind. These videos will be uploaded to YouTube. They'll be there for you whenever you're ready to come back to them. So start with your channels. Write down the energy of what that channel brings to your life. How does it long to show up in the world? Because that's how you're longing to show up in the world, and you may not be giving yourself permission to do so. What type of a channel is it? Is it manifested? Is it projected? Is it generated? So that's helpful because it helps you to understand that, oh, this actually, I do this for response. This actually acts in response. This actually is meant to initiate. This is meant to have a big impact, this channel. This is projected. This is something that is going to be better when it's recognized. And then you can set up your content in a way that allows you to be recognized in order to share that. Now, that does not mean that if you're a generator type, you don't respond with those projected channels, because your channels are going to come from your response first, and then you're going to move over to your other channels. And then also looking at if it's abstract or logical, if it's collective circuitry, that can be really fun too, because that's going to give you a different way of showing up, right? If you're a really logical person and you've been trying not to be so logical, then we have a problem. We have something that doesn't fit right in your content. If you're a real abstract person and you've been trying to make yourself logical, you've been trying to tell stories in a way that's chronological and that makes sense, that's step by step by step, as Dr. Phil would say, that dog won't hunt. Like, there's just no way, because that's not how you're meant to show up in the world. So really dive deeply into your channels. Write down everything that you possibly can about your channels and then sit with it for a while. These are your gifts. These are who you're here to be. I love the word marinate. I want to invite you to marinate in your gifts, okay? Spend some time really looking at the energy of these channels. This is who you are. And then the other thing that I want to ask you to do is to look at the energy of your conscious sun. Your conscious sun in BG5 is known as your brand. So this is really who you're here to be in business. And we know this is 70% of who you're here to be, right? So how can you fully step into this energy? Again, Google is your friend. All of your human design books that you've been collecting, go through and find all of that information on your conscious sun. And by now you should have this all on a piece of paper, or maybe you're crafty and you've done some fun craft with it. Maybe you've got it on your computer. I know that this isn't all of your design. I know that there are a bazillion other pieces of your design, but this is a really good place to start. We sometimes can get overwhelmed by thinking, I have to do all of the things according, and yes, you are naturally going to do the things according to your design, but pull out these little pieces. Once you've got a picture of this energy as the energy that you bring to the world, it's time to craft a story around it. This is how you share what you're here to share. Who are you here to be? How do you serve your people with the gifts of this energy? What's the new story that you're telling yourself around what you bring to the table? Because I know you, and I know that you've probably been telling yourself some old stories, and that's what's holding you back from being your full self on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever it is that you're showing up in your business. And you know what? You're not alone. It happens to all of us. And we get to do this work over and over and over again. No matter what level you're at right now with your social media, you're going to hit this again. Every time, there's a saying that we use in the direct sales industry, new level, new devil. Every time you hit a new level in your business, you're going to have to go through this work again. And you're going to have to get comfortable again with how you're showing up. So give yourself time to really go through that today. Allow yourself to marinate in it. And you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to write content. You don't have to come up with a brand voice. You don't have to do any of those things. You have to clean up. You're invited to clean up your Instagram account or your Facebook account if that's what you're using. Clean up the energy all around that. Clean up the people that are following you. Clean up the people you're following. And then really look into the gifts in your human design so that we have a really good basis as we begin to create content over the week ahead. Tomorrow on day 2, we're going to be talking about the 3 different ways that you can use Instagram, the 3 different types of content. There's more than 3, but they're going to fall into these 3 categories of content that you can create. And maybe I'll even challenge you to create one of those posts and post it to your feed. But that's not for today. Today, you're just marinating in your own juiciness.